Okay, today we're in chapter 15 of the book of Proverbs. Now, as we start this book, again, it is clear to all of us that the book of Proverbs is a different kind of book. Most books have a subject matter, and they start out and they develop the subject matter, and so you can flow with it and you go on and on, chapter after chapter. This one doesn't have a subject matter with one exception, and that is the subject matter is, how do you live life? What are the 500 important things you need to know to be happy? That's what it's about. In other words, it's saying, I'm going to deal with thing after thing after thing after thing, and every one of these things that I'm dealing with are things that we need to know in order to be happy. So we might say, really, when you boil our lives down, all of us live very common lives. We have very similar problems. None of us have a problem that others haven't experienced before and won't experience again. We have these problems, and as we go through life, some of these problems are brought on by other people, but most of them are brought on by ourselves. It's the things that we do that cause us problems. Now, what the book of Proverbs is about is to tell us how we ought to live. How we ought to live so we can have these happy lives. As a result, you go from verse to verse to verse, and we might say almost every verse changes topics. It changes subjects. It goes from here to here to here, and then back to this, and then back to that. And if you sat down and read and said, okay, now I'm going to write down over here the subject matter in the book of Proverbs. As you start out, today we're going to start out with anger. So you write down anger. Then the very next verse, then you go down and you talk about the tongue, what the tongue says. So you write that down. And then you go on and you talk about accepting reproof or correction. Will you accept that? So you write that down. And then you talk about foolishness. So you write that down. And then it goes back to accepting correctness. And then it goes back to anger. And then it goes back to the tongue. And so it goes back and forth. The book is not trying to take a subject and develop that subject, but it's trying to take a subject and then in a short sentence, like we said before, you take a long life, put it in a short sentence. And it tells you what to do, what this man who's lived this long life, what he's learned to do in order for us to live a happy life. So you go back and forth. Now when you get through, how many different things will you have over here on your piece of paper? I really don't know. I don't know how many things that you would have over there on that piece of paper. I'm sure that there would be at least 50 different things that you would have. And then you look at them, and if you look at anger, and every time you come across anger, if you write down the verse, after you got through with the book, you'd look back and you'd say, well, you know, there are 18 different verses on anger. And there's 43 on the tongue. And so you look at it and you see, wow, there's lots of teaching on each one of these things. So as we go through the book, that's what we're going to find. Lots of teaching, but back and forth. Now, this is hard on a teacher because as you start out, you say, now, how much time do I spend on each one of these things? So if you spend the time that really should be spent, you'd be talking for years just in the book of Proverbs. On the other hand, you say, well, I want to skim through so we can get through. Then you're going to miss a lot of verses that have a lot of meaning in them. So you wrestle with the problem, and you always come up short and failing and not doing it in the right way. But that's a problem that you have in doing this. For instance, this morning I thought, I think I'll just take the whole lesson on anger because, boy, that is a big subject. And that's a subject that causes problems at work, in the church, in marriage, with your children. There's not an aspect of our life where anger doesn't cause problems. It's either anger that you have or anger that somebody else has that you're working with. But somewhere there's some anger that is in there. So what do we do with anger? And so hours and hours and hours could be spent on it. We have classes and called anger management, and they last for 12 weeks, 24 weeks. It just goes on of how do you manage your anger. Well, this is what he's going to be dealing with in here, just going to give us little bits of information and tell us about how important such things as this is. Let me start out by getting you to think about one aspect of anger today. How many of you think that anger is good? That being angry is a good thing. Now, I'm not trying to trick you. I understand Jesus got angry. Jesus got angry and then he acted and then he went on. But would anybody in here say Jesus was an angry man? Do you picture Jesus, if you had the opportunity of meeting him and spending a week with him, you'd go away and say, boy, he's an angry man. No, we wouldn't say that. No, he's a compassionate, nice, sweet man. But there are other people that are angry. And they're angry all the time. Their bosses told them you're angry. Their spouses told them you're angry. Their friends have told them you're angry. Nobody likes to be around them. How many of you enjoy being around an angry man? Somebody you just knows an angry man. How many of you know somebody that if I said, say, you know, so-and-so has been doing something here and it bothers, would you go talk to him? How many of you know somebody, no, I don't want to talk to him because I know what would happen if I talked to him. That person would get angry, see, being angry. You like that kind of a person? Well, no, nobody likes that kind of a person. Nobody does. Here's what I'm trying to point. If nobody likes that kind of a person, nobody likes an angry man, why are people angry? Why don't they quit it? Why don't they stop? If nobody likes that, and if they've been told over and over and over again, why don't they stop? Do they know they're angry? Yeah. Yeah, they know they're angry. And in fact, a lot of people brag about it. Yeah, I understand I'm short-tempered. Is that bragging material? See? That's not bragging material. Well, then why don't we stop? Well, there's a very simple answer to that, and that is because we've learned that's how we can get our way. That's the reason it is. That's how we can get our way. Let's take husband and wife. I don't care which one of them you take to be the angry person, but let's suppose that you take the guy and he's angry. She does something that he doesn't like, and so he blows his stack and does this. Well, why does he do that? He has learned that's how he can get his way. He has learned through life, if I do that, I get what I want. Now, generally, he's learned that from his dad because he's seen his dad treat his mom this way. And when Dad would get angry, everybody in the family would buckle down. This is what we all do. Let's not get him angry. So the person gets his way. And so he learned, that's how you get your way, is by being angry. Okay? And so he's learned a way of life. That's the way you get through life. That's how you become successful in life. Nobody fools around with me. If you don't do what I want, I'm going to flare up. And all during life, I've noticed that when I flare up, what do you people do? When I start getting angry, you start backing off, don't you? Because nobody likes to confront an angry man. So I learned, that's how you get your way. So I become an angry man. I'm taught that. I'm really happy that I'm angry. Okay? And that's what happens in life through there. Now, we say, boy, I don't see why. Well, that's the way it works. Now, what does the Bible say about such things as this? So from here on, I'm assuming that my allergies will be better next week and I can go ahead and be teaching. From here on, let's start looking at these things. And let's notice now, as we start out today, how many times we run across these things. And I want you to take notice of how many different things are there that we need to learn about. Here's a good thing, and it might be good if you got a piece of paper to write this down. How many things in the book of Proverbs does the proverbist warn us about? And telling us this and that. And if I would do all of these things, if I do everything the book of Proverbs tells me to do, what kind of person would I be? Wow. I'd be a great person. I'd be able to get along with everybody if I would do that. Well, how many things do I need to learn in order to do that? All right, chapter 15, verse 1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but a grievous word stirreth up anger. Stop. Now, how much is taught there? You can count the words. There's not too many words there. But what all does that encompass? When I stop and I tell myself, okay, now what can I learn from this? A soft answer turneth away wrath. So somebody comes to me and they're really mad at me. And they come in and they say, Lowell, I hate you. Or Lowell, you shouldn't have done. And they start blaming me. Now, what kind of reaction will I have if somebody walks up to you and does that? What kind of reaction do you have? Just immediately. Now, be honest with yourself. Don't try to kid yourself. When somebody comes up to you and starts saying, I want to tell you something, and they start like this, don't say, oh, I really enjoy that conversation. No, your reaction is to be angry at them, isn't it? Your reaction is to bite back, to really set them straight. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're blaming you. And now you don't like that. That raises another question. What causes you to be angry? Why is it that you have a tendency to flare up? I walk up to you today and put my finger in your nose and say, I want to tell you something. Before I go any farther, what is your mood? I have just changed a nice, sweet person into another person, haven't I? You're now resentful. You're angry. What causes a person to be angry? This raises a question that I started with, is anger good or bad? Now this time I'm answering it, it's a loaded question. Because if you say anger is bad, you're wrong. Because God became angry at the children of Israel. Jesus became angry at the Pharisees. Anger is good. In fact, one time Paul says, be ye angry. He said, I'm going to permit you to be angry. And sin not. That was the next one, but that's a totally different thing. But yeah, you can be angry. Now, if God had said, don't ever get angry, he would have given us a commandment that we couldn't obey. Because God made man so he can get angry. See, he made us so that we can. Jesus became angry. And if God says, don't ever get angry or you sin, we're in trouble. God made us to get angry. Now that brings me around, why do you get angry? What causes a person to get angry? Have you ever sat down and analyzed yourself and asked, why would I ever get angry? And it always comes back to this. When you perceive something is not fair, it causes you to become angry. When you see something and it looks like it is not fair, it's wrong, your reaction will be anger. It's just like if somebody came up right now in that door and came in and said, Lowell, here's a box that has been sent to you. And so I take the box and I wonder what it is. Is this a terrorist? Is this a bomb? Well, what's my reaction? I don't know what's in the box. Box is that big a square. He sets it down over here. What's my reaction? What would you expect? Caution, wouldn't you? You'd probably say, well, let me go over. Shake it. Sounds okay. Cut it open. Oh, great. Oh, wow. Now, what happened to me? My attitude changed. What changed my attitude? You don't know what's in that box, so what changed my attitude? Whatever's in that box, isn't it? In other words, I saw something in that box, and now then I'm happy. Great. Wow, good, great. So what do you know is in that box, generally speaking? It's something I like, right? It's something I want. And I reach in and I pull out a great big bunch of $1,000 bills. See? And you say, well, now I see why he was so happy. See? There's something in there he liked. On the other hand, I look in there, well, I'll say, well, I'm going to, yeah. Oh! Whew. Roger, close that box. Get that box out here, Roger. Now, do you know there's something else in that box other than $1,000 bills now? But here's the whole point. You're reading my attitude, aren't you? And you expect my attitude to be of a certain nature. What would happen? What would you think of me? If I opened up that box and I see those $5,000 bills in there, I pull out $100,000 and there's another $100,000. And I say, just my luck. Dirty, rotten uncle of mine, rich, no good guy. I knew he'd do that. I knew he'd leave me several $1 million. Would you say I might have a problem? Or if I look in there and I come down and there's a rattlesnake, and I say, oh, I love the little fella, and I'm going to start petting him on the head. Would you say there might be something wrong with me? Now, my whole point is, a normal individual will have certain normal reactions, will they not? And if they don't, they have a problem. Now, you will become angry under certain conditions. You'll be happy under certain conditions. You'll be angry under certain conditions. And what will cause anger? And it can happen just like that. And if you will go back and analyze it, it's because something happened that you perceive, and I want you to note that you perceive is not fair. From your viewpoint, it's not fair. See? And it'll make you angry. You say, what do you mean by that? Well, let's suppose after class today, Charlene comes up here, steps up here like this, and she comes up to ask me a question. And all of a sudden, I grab Charlene and throw her down, and she falls on her back right down there. How will she feel? How will she feel toward me? Do you suppose she'll say, "Oh, thank you, Lowell"? No, she's going to be mad because she perceives that I did something she doesn't deserve. That's her viewpoint. But let's suppose that, come back to the rattlesnake. Here is a rattlesnake. She's standing right by it. It's getting ready to strike her. And I can either let her be bit by that rattlesnake or push her away. And I push her away and save her from being bit by that rattlesnake. Now, either way, she's going to think it's unfair. She perceives it is. But when she finds out there was really a rattlesnake there, then she's going to say, "Oh, I see now, yeah, Lowell had a reason." See, it wasn't unfair. And her whole attitude will change toward me. So, Mike, next time you yell at Jerry, come in the house, "Jerry White!" Why will Mike do that? It's just simple. You and I standing out in the yard, we can say, well, Mike saw something he thinks not fair in there. See, whether it is or whether it's not, that is there. So now, when anger is designed for a certain reason, just like fear. Fear causes you to get away from whatever you fear. It saves your life. Anger causes you to spring into action to correct an unjust thing. You can correct something that is unjust. What anger does is it just immediately floods your body with all of the hormones and juices that are in there and the adrenaline and causes you to become a superhuman person for a little while, and you can correct whatever is in there. But anger is used for just a short period of time. Just a short period of time, and it's designed to take care of a problem and then get over the anger. Now, how long did Jesus say or Paul say you had to get over your anger? "Be ye angry and sin not, and let not the sun go down upon your wrath." Make sure you get control of it today. So if I am angry at Helen, I might be justified. And I will feel that I am. Why did you do that stupid thing? Why did you throw my pillow away? As we were talking about a little while ago. See? And she'd say, "Well, honey, I threw your pillow away because I thought it was a problem giving you allergies." Oh, what should happen to my anger? See? I need to get control of that anger, because that anger is going to burn on the inside of you and cause you to feel a certain way on the inside, and it can tear you up. It can tear you up. As they've often said, an angry person has lots of diseases, and that's true, because he has all kinds of these juices going on inside him, and they're not designed for that. I generally give it an illustration in this way. How many of you have a car where you drive down the road and all of a sudden you see you're in a situation, maybe you're passing a car and there's another car coming, and you're in a situation where you need to get out of there fast, and if you slam your accelerator all the way to the floorboard, it'll change into a gear and go ring, and around you go into that passing gear. You all have cars like that, see? Yeah. Okay, that's great. Now, that can save your life. Next time you're driving down the road, you're caught in a situation, slam it all the way to the floorboard because it put it in another gear, and bing, and it'll save your life. But now what would happen if you say, next time you're heading to Wenatchee, boy, that passing gear is great. So you get out here and you say, I'm not just going to drive normally, but you put her all the way to the floor, put it in passing gear, and you drive over the mountain in passing gear. What's going to happen to your transmission? The way it's going to fly. That's what anger is. Anger can save your life. It can help you. Or anger can destroy you. So it's a God-given thing. We don't need to be ashamed of the fact that, yeah, I got angry, but be angry and sin not. Take care of it. Use it to find out, are you justified or are you not justified in becoming angry that's there. So anger now is a big thing. Next week then we're going to start, and we'll start with Mike again. Mike comes up to me. Instead of yelling at Jerry, he starts yelling at me. Lowell, why did you? And now, what kind of reaction will that give me before he goes any farther? What kind of reaction will I have toward him? That no good, low down, rotten. There's where we close class today. What should I do? Okay, class dismissed.